Ryan's office revenge.
They cleared out my desk before I even knew I was fired. 23 years of service, and they packed my stuff in a cardboard box like I was some intern who forgot to show up. Found it sitting outside the security checkpoint when I got back from my morning system diagnostic. My nameplate was already gone from the door, replaced with a piece of masking tape that said J. Sheffield, Innovation VP. The kid couldn't even spell his own title right. Had innovation in blue ballpoint pen. I'm Warren Holbrook, 47 years old, and I've been keeping this place running since most of these management types were still figuring out how to use email. They call me Dutch, old Air Force call sign that stuck after a mission in Kosovo where I kept the communications array operational through a 3-day bombardment. 23 years at Apex Defense Solutions, building the systems that keep our defense contracts alive and our clearances clean. Not the flashy stuff you see in movies, the backbone, the infrastructure, the parts nobody thinks about until they break. Standing there in that sterile hallway, staring at my life in a box, I didn't get mad. That's not how military training works. You assess the situation first, analyze the terrain, figure out what intel you're working with, then you plan your mission accordingly. The mission briefing had come 2 days earlier in the form of a company-wide email. Subject line, Organizational Optimization Initiative. Corporate speak for we're cutting people to boost quarterly numbers. Jordan Sheffield, 29 years old, MBA from Wharton, hired 6 months ago to streamline operations and eliminate legacy dependencies. He'd been making his rounds ever since, asking questions like, can we automate this process? And do we really need dedicated personnel for compliance oversight? Kid walked around with an iPad and a coffee that cost more than most people spend on lunch, taking notes about everything like he was documenting some archaeological dig. He'd never served, never worked a day in manufacturing or defense contracting before this job, but he had buzzwords and PowerPoint slides, so management figured he knew what he was talking about. The thing about working defense contracts is everything runs on clearances. Not just any clearances, specific, named clearances tied to individual people with individual backgrounds, individual investigations, individual federal files. My master security clearance covered 3 separate DoD contracts worth $180 million in annual revenue. The clearance wasn't transferable, wasn't shareable, and couldn't be reassigned without a full federal audit that takes 8 to 12 months minimum. I'd explained this in a memo back in 2022, filed it under Critical Infrastructure Dependencies, UARGent Review Required. Charles Hampton, the board chairman, had responded with a 1-line email, understood, will keep in mind for future structural changes. Nobody else even acknowledged receiving it. Sheffield had called me into his office that Tuesday morning. Temporary office, they'd given him the corner space with the view while he decided who stayed and who went. Kid looked like he'd stepped out of a business magazine. Pressed shirt with French cuffs, expensive watch that probably had more computing power than our first server, shoes that probably cost more than most people's rent. He'd spread my performance reviews across his desk like he was studying battle plans, except these battle plans all said the same thing. Exceeds expectations. Critical to operations, irreplaceable institutional knowledge, Warren, he said, not looking up from the papers. Making me wait like some recruit in front of the commanding officer. I've been reviewing your position within our new operational framework. I kept my mouth shut. Let him talk himself into whatever corner he was heading for. In the Air Force, we called it giving someone enough rope. Your clearance work is obviously valued, but we're moving toward a more distributed model. Shared access, streamlined protocols. We don't want single points of failure in our system, single points of failure. Kid was using engineering terms he'd picked up from some consultant's PowerPoint, probably didn't even know what they meant in actual practice. I adjusted my watch, old habit from the service, checked the time, 8:47 hours, marked the moment for the record. The thing is, Sheffield continued, finally making eye contact. We need to right-size the team for maximum efficiency. Your role, while historically important, falls outside our core competency matrix going forward. Right size, core competency matrix, maximum efficiency. The boy was reading from a script someone else had written, probably some McKinsey consultant who charged $500 an hour to tell people what they already knew. We'd like to offer you a generous severance package, and of course, excellent references for future opportunities. This transition will position both you and the company for optimal outcomes in the evolving market landscape. Optimal outcomes, evolving market landscape. Kid talked like a software update. I looked at him for a long moment, tapped out a quick pattern on his desk with my index finger, Morse code for message receive. He didn't recognize it, just watched my finger like I was having some kind of nervous breakdown. When I asked, effective immediately. We've prepared your transition documentation and arranged for knowledge transfer sessions with your replacement. Transition documentation knowledge transfer sessions. Like my 23 years of institutional knowledge could fit in a folder and be handed off to whoever they pulled in from a temp agency. I stood up, straightened my shirt, and extended my hand. Well then, it's been educational. He shook it, probably relieved. I wasn't arguing or negotiating or threatening to call a lawyer. Thank you for your professionalism, Warren. This is really the best outcome for everyone involved. Best outcome. I walked out of his office and headed straight for my workstation, past the break room where someone had written Taco Tuesday on the whiteboard in cheerful green marker, past the cubicles where younger engineers were already arriving with their coffee and their optimism intact. The walk to my workstation felt different that morning. I noticed things I'd missed before. How quiet the server room was when it ran clean, that low hum that meant everything was operating within normal parameters. How the morning light hit the security monitors at just the right angle to show the dust particles floating in the air. How my fingers knew every keyboard shortcut without thinking. Muscle memory built over decades of keeping this place operational. My terminal was still logged in. Sheffield and his team hadn't thought to revoke my access yet. Probably figured they had time to transition everything properly. Maybe bring in some contractor to knowledge transfer my responsibilities to whoever they pulled in from the outside. Another phrase from the MBA playbook that showed they didn't understand what they were dealing with. See, there's a difference between having access to systems and understanding how those systems work. Sheffield could probably log into our compliance dashboard if someone gave him the password. He could probably click through the menus, maybe even generate some reports. But he'd be like a tourist with a rental car trying to navigate a city he'd never seen before. He might get where he was going eventually, but he'd have no idea why the roads were laid out that way or what happened if he took a wrong turn. I opened the federal compliance dashboard. My clearance was hard-coded into the authentication chain for all 3 major contracts. The missile guidance system for Lockheed, the communications array for Raytheon, and the cybersecurity framework for General Dynamics. Every transaction, every data transfer, every communication with DoD servers ran through protocols I'd designed and implemented over the course of 2 decades. The system didn't just need my password, it needed my biometric signature, my security token, and my federal PIN, all tied to my social security number, which was tied to my military service record, which was tied to my background investigation file going back to when I was 19 years old and first enlisted. You don't just replace that with a software update. I pulled up my personnel file, scrolled through 23 years of performance reviews. Demonstrates exceptional technical competency, critical to mission success, recommend for retention and advancement. Every supervisor I'd worked under, every contract I'd managed, every crisis I'd handled, all documented in black and white, all ignored by a 29-year-old with an MBA and a consultancy background. The irony wasn't lost on me. Sheffield talked about eliminating single points of failure, but he'd just created the biggest single point of failure in the company's history. By firing me, he'd turned me from the solution into the problem. I opened my email, found the memo I'd sent to the board in 2022, subject line, Critical Infrastructure Dependencies Risk Assessment. 5 pages of detailed analysis explaining exactly what would happen if the company lost its cleared personnel without proper succession planning. I'd laid it out chapter and verse, the federal requirements, the audit timelines, the contract implications, the financial impact, everything they needed to know to avoid exactly the situation they'd just created. Hampton's response was still there in the thread. Understood. We'll keep in mind for future structural changes, no follow-up questions, no requests for additional information, no action items. Just a polite acknowledgement, and then nothing. I forwarded the memo to myself at my personal email address. Then I opened the revocation form for voluntary clearance surrender. Standard federal procedure for people who wanted out. Retirement, career changes, personal reasons. The form was designed for normal circumstances, not for situations like this. But the checkbox didn't care about context. It just cared about proper authentication and digital signatures. Before I clicked submit, I took one last look around the office. Amanda Cross from legal was at her desk, probably dealing with some contract dispute or vendor negotiation. Nancy Fielding was organizing Charles Hampton's calendar, same as she'd done for the past 15 years. Joey Martinez was in the server room running diagnostics, keeping the infrastructure humming along like it had every morning since I'd hired him straight out of technical college. None of them knew what was about to happen. Hell, I wasn't entirely sure what was about to happen, but I knew it was going to be educational. I clicked Submit Clearance Revocation. The screen flickered once, then a message appeared, Clearance Revocation Processed. All associated access terminated. Facility security notifications dispatched per federal protocol. 23 years of access gone in 3.7 seconds. The system worked exactly the way it was supposed to, within minutes, Automated notifications would be dispatched to 3 federal oversight offices. The computers would flag it as an unscheduled clearance revocation from an active facility and dispatch alerts to the Defense Security Service, the Defense Contract Management Agency, and the Pentagon's Office of Inspector General. Those alerts would trigger automatic reviews, which would trigger site inspections, which would trigger very uncomfortable questions about why a cleared facility was operating without proper authorization. I logged out of my terminal for the last time, grabbed my coffee mug, the one with the old 52nd Communications Squadron logo that had survived 6 office relocations, and headed for the parking lot. Behind me, I could hear phones starting to ring. The automated notifications were probably already hitting inboxes in Washington. I sat in my truck in the parking lot, engine running, air conditioning, fighting the California heat, sipped my coffee, and watched the building through the windshield. Looked peaceful from the outside. Glass and steel, clean lines, corporate landscaping maintained by a crew that came every Tuesday and Friday. Nothing to suggest that inside critical defense systems were starting to shut down one by one as federal computers cross-referenced my revocation against active contract databases. The first wave would be automated. Computer systems talking to other computer systems, following protocols that had been in place since the Cold War. No human intervention required, no appeals process, no room for negotiation, just cold mechanical compliance with federal security requirements. The second wave would be phone calls, federal compliance officers following up on the automated alerts. They'd want explanations, documentation, immediate corrective action plans. They'd want to talk to the person responsible for security oversight. That person no longer worked there. By 10:15 hours, the first federal vehicle pulled into the visitor parking area. Unmarked sedan with government plates, 2 men in suits carrying briefcases and badge folders. They walked like investigators, not inspectors. Measured steps, eyes scanning the building facade, taking mental notes before they even reached the front door. I recognized the type career federal employees who'd spent years learning how to spot problems that other people missed. My phone buzzed. Text from Amanda Cross, the general counsel. Warren, urgent situation developing. Federal investigators asking about clearance status. Are you available to meet? I turned the phone face down on my dashboard. At 1:43, another vehicle arrived. This one I recognized, black SUV with federal law enforcement plates. Defense Criminal Investigative Service, these weren't compliance officers anymore. These were the people who showed up when someone suspected criminal negligence or security breaches. I drove home the long way through the industrial district where most of the defense contractors had their facilities, past 3 other companies I'd worked with over the years. Northrop's satellite division, BAE's electronic warfare unit, and a classified facility that officially didn't exist, but everyone knew handled signals intelligence for the NSA. All running on similar clearance structures, all vulnerable to the same kind of optimization Sheffield was pushing. Made me think about my old squadron buddy Pete Morrison, who'd been trying to get me to join his consulting firm for the past 5 years. Defense contractors pay premium rates for people who understand federal compliance. He'd told me over beers last Christmas. Especially people with your background and clearance level. You could write your own ticket. I'd always turned him down. Loyalty, I guess. Old-fashioned notion that you stick with the people who stick with you, but Apex hadn't stuck with me, had they? At home, I poured myself a bourbon, the good stuff I saved for special occasions, and sat on my back porch. Watched the neighbors going about their business. Kids riding bikes, dogs barking, retired folks working in their gardens. Normal civilian life continuing while somewhere across town, a very expensive lesson in federal compliance was playing out in real time. My landline rang at 11:43. Caller ID showed Apex's main number. I let it ring. At 11:56, it rang again. Different number this time, Amanda's direct line. Probably trying to get me to explain the legal implications of what I'd done, maybe see if there was some way to undo it. Federal clearance revocation wasn't like canceling a subscription service. Once you pulled that trigger, there was no undo button. At 12:03, it was Nancy Fielding calling from Charles Hampton's office. Sweet woman, been there almost as long as I had. She'd understand what was happening better than most. In her 15 years as executive assistant, she'd seen 3 different CEOs, 2 major reorganizations, and countless rounds of optimization initiatives. She knew the difference between routine corporate politics and genuine crisis. I answered on the 4th ring. Warren? Her voice was tight, stressed. Thank God, Mr. Hampton needs to speak with you immediately. We have federal investigators on site, contract suspensions, and I think we might have serious legal problems. What kind of problems, Nancy? The kind where people might go to jail. The investigators are asking about willful negligence of federal security requirements. They want to know who authorized the termination of cleared personnel without proper transition protocols. Willful negligence. That was a criminal charge, not just a civil compliance issue. Someone could face federal prison time for mishandling classified contracts. Mr. Hampton read your 2022 memo, Nancy continued, the one about clearance dependencies. He's asking why nobody followed up on it. And what did you tell him? That you sent it to the entire board and received exactly one response. His response. Understood, will keep in mind for future structural changes. I sipped my bourbon, watched a hawk circling overhead, hunting for something. Nancy, I'm retired as of this morning. Warren, please, they're talking about congressional oversight, Defense Department investigations. This could destroy the company. Congressional oversight. That got my attention. When Congress started asking questions about defense contractor compliance, careers ended and companies folded. The kind of scrutiny that made corporate executives wake up in cold sweats and start updating their resumes. Tell Mr. Hampton I'll consider a consultation role, I said finally. Standard rates plus expenses. What are standard rates for this kind of thing? Triple my old salary. 6-month minimum contract, full benefits, and I work from home. Nancy was quiet for a moment. I could hear voices in the background, urgent conversations, the sound of crisis management in full swing. I'll pass that along, she said. Warren, how bad is this going to get? I thought about the automated systems that were probably still churning away in Washington. Cross-referencing databases, generating reports, scheduling audits. Thought about the federal investigators who were probably requesting personnel files and contract documents. Thought about the congressional staffers who would eventually want explanations for how a major defense contractor had been operating without proper clearance oversight. Nancy, you remember what happened to Morrison Industries back in 2018? The company that lost their Pentagon contracts, they went out of business, didn't they? 18 months from investigation to bankruptcy, and their situation wasn't nearly as clear-cut as this one. More silence on her end. Then I'll talk to Mr. Hampton right away. After she hung up, I called Pete Morrison, told him I might have some free time coming up after a short-term consulting contract ended, said I'd learned a few things about federal compliance that might be valuable in the private sector. What kind of things? Pete asked. The expensive kind, I told him, the kind that keep defense contractors from getting shut down by federal investigators. Pete laughed. Warren, you've been holding out on me. When can we talk? Give me 6 months to wrap up some loose ends. Then we'll see about making some real money. The third wave of calls started around 1400 hours, media inquiries. Someone had leaked the story to Defense News, probably one of the federal investigators trying to send a message to other contractors about the importance of compliance protocols. The news van showed up at 1347 hours, parking across the street from my house like they were conducting surveillance. Local affiliate, probably following up on the federal activity at Apex. These stories moved fast once government investigators got involved. Defense contractor shutdowns made headlines because they affected jobs, contracts, and sometimes national security. At 14:02, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize, federal area code. Mr. Holbrook? Female voice, professional tone, the kind that came from years of conducting sensitive interviews. This is Agent Sarah Kim with the Defense Security Service. We need to discuss your clearance revocation this morning. Yes, ma'am. Can you confirm that your revocation was voluntary and not the result of any security concerns or coercion?
Voluntary, yes, ma'am.
Filed the paperwork myself at 0851 hours this morning, and you're aware this action has suspended operations at your former employer pending security review. I figured it might. Long pause, I could hear keyboards clicking in the background, probably other agents reviewing files and cross-referencing databases. Mr. Holbrook, we have your personnel file here. 23 years of clean reviews, commendations from 3 different program managers, and a memo from 2022 warning about exactly this scenario. Yes, ma'am. The memo specifically outlined the risks of terminating cleared personnel without proper succession planning. It was addressed to the company's board of directors with a copy to legal counsel. That's correct. Another pause. Mr. Holbrook, in your professional opinion, was this termination handled in accordance with federal security protocols? That was a loaded question. Agent Kim was giving me an opportunity to go on record about Apex's negligence, probably building a case for criminal charges against Sheffield and whoever authorized my termination. No, ma'am, I said. Federal regulations require 30-day advance notice for any changes to cleared personnel status on active contracts. No such notice was filed. Would you be available for a consultation role while we conduct our investigation? I'm retired, ma'am, but I'd be happy to provide technical assistance if needed. We'll be in touch. The fourth wave hit around 1500 hours. Client notifications. Apex's biggest customers, Lockheed, Raytheon, General Dynamics, all receiving automated alerts that their classified contracts had been suspended due to security compliance failures. Those calls would trigger emergency meetings, backup contractor evaluations, and very angry phone calls to Charles Hampton demanding explanations he couldn't provide. I was finishing my second bourbon when the black sedan with federal plates pulled into my driveway, not investigators this time. Charles Hampton himself, climbing out of the passenger seat like his spine was made of broken glass. The man looked like he'd aged a decade in 6 hours. He walked up to my porch, slowly, hands visible, no sudden movements. Guy had been around government contracts long enough to know when he was walking into hostile territory. "Dutch," he said, stopping at the bottom of my steps. "Mr. Hampton, mind if I sit?" I gestured to the empty chair. He settled into it carefully, like a man carrying the weight of a company's survival on his shoulders. "Hell of a day," he said. "Yes, sir, federal investigators, contract suspensions, congressional inquiries, the whole 9 yards. He looked out at the street, watching a maintenance crew working on power lines. Jordan Sheffield is no longer with the company. Security escorted him out around 14:30. Shame, Hampton's mouth twitched. Might have been a smile under different circumstances. "Is it?" We sat quiet for a while. Watched the neighborhood kids playing street hockey, their shouts echoing between the houses. Normal life going on while careers ended and contracts died. "Dutch," Hampton said finally, "we need help. Federal review could take 6 to 8 months. Our clients are already evaluating other contractors. If we don't get this sorted out fast, there won't be a company left to save. What kind of help? Consulting, interim clearance management, whatever it takes to get federal approval for limited operations while we rebuild our security structure." I adjusted my watch, checked the time. 16:21 hours. "What's the rate? Whatever you think is fair. Triple my old salary, 6-month minimum contract, full benefits, and I work from home." Hampton didn't hesitate. "Done. And Sheffield's office. I want his office. It's yours. And one more thing. Next time somebody sends you a memo about critical infrastructure, maybe read the damn thing." He laughed, the first genuine expression I'd seen from him all day. Message received. Dutch, message received. The next morning, I drove to Apex in my civilian clothes, coffee in my old squadron mug, ready to start my new job as senior compliance consultant at 3 times my old salary. The federal investigators were still there, but now they were working with me instead of around me. Amazing how quickly attitudes change when you become part of the solution. I set up in Sheffield's old corner office, the one with the view and the expensive furniture. Hung my squadron plaque on the wall next to his abandoned whiteboard where he'd drawn diagrams of optimization matrices and efficiency workflows. Left his drawings up there as a reminder. The local news ran a story that evening about federal compliance at defense contractors. They interviewed some expert from Georgetown who explained how these companies depend on individual security clearances and what happens when those clearances disappear unexpectedly. Called it a cautionary tale about the importance of institutional knowledge and proper succession planning. I watched it from my new office, feet up on the mahogany desk, sipping bourbon from my coffee mug. The view was better than I'd expected. Could see the whole facility from up there all the way to the parking lot where I'd sat in my truck the day before, watching my former employer learn what single point of failure actually meant. Sometimes the mission requires patience, sometimes it requires precision, and sometimes it just requires knowing which switches control the power when the conversation's over. Listen, if you've been working in corporate America long enough, you've probably seen this story before. Maybe you've lived it. Some young hotshot with an MBA and a mandate to optimize everything comes in and starts cutting what they think is dead weight. Problem is, they can't tell the difference between dead weight and load-bearing walls. If you've got institutional knowledge, real knowledge, the kind that keeps systems running, don't assume they understand what you do. Document everything. Make sure the right people know what happens if you're not there, because one day some efficiency expert is going to decide your legacy overhead. And when that day comes, you want to make sure they understand exactly what they're cutting loose.